Cornerstone Mortgage's Melissa Kaiser. She's a loan officer, and she is here to help. Not only does she specialize in helping first-time home buyers, she'll work with you on your USDA, VA, conventional loans, and much more. She is always available for her clients and can't wait to work with you. Contact her today, 314-346-6264.
She'll make your dreams come true.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Melissa Kaiser, Cornerstone Mortgage, does not endorse the singing. Equal housing lender, Illinois Residential Mortgage Licensee, 9717 Landmark Parkway Drive, Suite 101, St. Louis, Missouri, 63127, NMLS number 650731, company NMLS 223109.
Hey, We Are Live fans. This is Jeremy Allen Stanton, veteran of the U.S. Air Force and owner of Barrel Beard and Tattoo. We created a unique and highly effective hair and skin oil, which we age in used whiskey barrels from local distillers right here in St. Louis. Barrel Beard and Tattoo products are made by hand with only the finest natural ingredients. Whether you're trying to get your beard game in check or your skin looking and feeling better than ever, we can help. Visit Barrel Beard and Tattoo to learn more about our story.
You're now tuned in to the Free Play Media Podcast Network.
We are live. Chris Denman going solo today. I'll tell you all about my guest in just a second. Big thank you to Barrel Beard and Tattoo Oil, great sponsor of ours. Thank you to Logboat Brewing, Melissa Kaiser at Cornerstone Mortgage, all of our friends that sponsor the show, the radio show, our comedy events, all that we do. And thank you all for listening as well. Be sure to subscribe. If you're not, review it and tell a friend. Today, our guest is at Helium Comedy Club all weekend long. You need to go see him if you're here in the St. Louis area. Drew Lynch. Drew, thanks for joining, man. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Absolutely, man. It's so good to see you. We were just talking about you were here about a year ago in St. Louis. Generally, either a good sign that your agent or somebody worked out a long-term deal, or it went really well, and you're back.
Yeah. I guess it went well. I was like, I didn't get shot the first time I was here, so I was like, statistically, I could try it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I think it's a good weekend too. Just had the Cardinals here, which this is funny because you tour the country, right? You're everywhere with us. St. Louis is one of those cities. Unfortunately, for you as a talented stand-up comic that's coming through on tour, it matters if the hockey team's playing. Hockey's out.
Football.
Yeah, there's baseball here. Baseball's such a big thing. It can affect crowds. I do it myself with the events we do. We kind of plan around it.
Yeah.
And then if you get really crazy college sports season, and Mizzou is an hour and a half away. So I think you've got a good weekend to be here.
Oh, good. Well, good. But yeah, it's funny because it never works the opposite way. Like if say you were to be at the Cardinal Stadium and it's empty there, no one's like, oh well Drew Lynch.
Everybody's a Drew Lynch, right?
So it doesn't work. It just doesn't work the same.
Oh, it's so tough too because like you'll have 40,000 people on a Wednesday afternoon hanging out in downtown St. Louis, and you're just like, can't 2,000 of you go to comedy shows this weekend? Like that would really change a lot of people's lives. That'd be great if that was a consistent thing. It is interesting like that. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Indianapolis. Man, that's so tough to say. So because I stutter, obviously, it's a thing to address. Because if I don't say it, people ask me like, does he know that he's doing it?
And that's true. And you, there's always higher levels of success and stardom and people being aware of you, but you're pretty well known.
Sure.
And you're pretty open about that too. Is that something that you still, since you brought it up, honestly, we could have went through the whole thing. I wouldn't have said a thing because I'm kind of like, it's there. People know about it. It's a thing and you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And it's not distracting to me, but is that something that, and not to patronize,
no,
I hope you don't take that the wrong way. Listen, that's a horrible thing that you have going on. We've got about another minute and a half before I cut this thing short. But is that something that is brought up to you all? I can picture maybe a funny thing that you could do for a TV show morning radio offers a lot of people that are like, well, what do we got here? America's Got Talent, huh? You know, and you go straight into that.
Yeah. It's just a thing that's just always helpful just to keep round up anybody who maybe is curious or whatever. But but yeah, it's again, like I actually appreciate your honesty as far as, you know, being like, you know, because that's exactly the way my ideology is on it. Is just like, it's just a part of who I am, and you know. But yeah, it's just funny. I hate saying sometimes where I'm from because I'm from I was born in Indianapolis, and that word starts the city starts with in, like with the word in. So when I say I was born in like it's easy for it to just start.
You know, where it's like bam.
Yeah, it's just right. You're in the stutter, like you're in it. And I remember what happened one time is this cab driver, this lady, she was really nice, but she said where she was aware, like she asked me where I was born or where I was from, and I said, well, I grew up in Vegas, but I was born it was one of those worst times where I was in the cyclone of just stuttering, and she just starts saying cities, like I was stuck saying that thing, and she's just
Poughkeepsie.
she's like, it's just Seattle. Like I was like, do you think you're gonna like? I'll say it, just let it, you know. I was like, do you think you're gonna guess all of geography before I finish my thing?
Things,
I almost wanted to just keep stuttering just to see how much like she knew. Like I was like, what places?
Where are you? What's on your mind?
Anchorage, Barstow.
Yeah.
You know.
So you were born in Indy, grew up in Vegas, like actually cut your teeth in Vegas, right?
Yeah. I would live there 10 years. I was there 8 to 19 or so.
Yeah. That's an interesting place. There's I just read a big write-up about one of the baseball players, the starting center fielder for the Cardinals right now, Tommy Pham, is from Las Vegas. We've had other people that grow up there. That's an interesting place to grow up, and I'm sure it's a much different experience than people get, you know, driving in from Orange County for the weekend or something like that. But as far as Vegas goes, I mean, did that kind of lead you into, and again, to coming in a little fresh on your career and what's taking you to where you're at, did that being close to the bright lights and all the performances, I mean, did that have an effect on your what you've chosen to do as a living? Yeah.
It's just strip clubs really inspired me.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That was. I like the bedazzled vest you're wearing today too. I can tell.
Yeah. Drew Lynch is just my stage name. My real name's Cinnamon.
Yes. Good for you.
Holy David, did you hear how well I said that? That was good. I said Cinnamon. I said, damn. Now I messed it up.
Don't get braggy. Okay. Damn it, Drew.
It was a cool place because I mean, I grew up doing performing arts stuff. Like for like my middle school and high school years, I was doing like theater, and acting was always what I wanted to do. And the thing is like you get desensitized to a lot of things when you live there, you know, like so the transition from Indiana to LA would have been, you know, big, but because I had in Indiana to Vegas to LA, it was a good little stepping stone. And it's kind of cool just because, you know, you see so much there. Like there's you know, there's
people losing their homes.
There's people losing their home. You know, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So that's what drives the tourism, is we want to see people in their poverty.
Exactly. Yeah, you have people. It's like I always like that. And then here in Missouri, you'll get some casinos that get a little sanctimonious. They'll have like certain rules they enforce, like no profanity at the table. And it is funny to think about, like, oh, so people losing their mortgage irresponsibly is fine, but like, don't say fuck while you're gambling. Like that's a thing. Yeah.
And it was like, if I lose my house in a bet, the first thing I'm going to do is swear. So,
yes, that's a problem.
You know.
Yeah, and you'll be promptly asked to leave.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, like even like saying, like even like being desensitized to like a lot of the nudity on billboards and stuff like that. Like the first time I saw a girl naked, I was like, okay. I was like, but like, what's your personality?
Right. You're like, I see this literally on the way to school every day.
Yeah. So, it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, it's also weird just because everything is built around the casino. So if you want to go see a movie, that's in a casino. If you want to, arcade or friends or restaurant or whatever, that's through the casino.
Is there an intermingling of the locals with the tourists? I guess you could say. Like, I can just see so many. They could probably avoid it.
Not usually. When there's bachelor or parties or bachelorette party. God, it's all.
And you chose
terrible.
to get into comedy, so you can't get away from the bachelorette parties, man.
Yeah, they haunt me, and honestly, I'm glad because I've seen the other side of it from a younger age. That now I don't indulge so much in I don't drink a ton. I don't gamble a lot. I mean, there's the meth thing that I have, that problem I have, but that's minor.
Got you apart on the drug issues. Got you apart on Marin's IFC show. Yeah,
that's right.
That was a really good role, and I watched all 5 seasons of that. I'm a fan of his.
Are you a fan of Marin?
And it's actually cool to see. Like, it's a weird time we're living in. There's versions of this, I'm sure, in the 80s or 70s or 90s or whatever. But to see a guy like Marin, just since we brought him up, go from young guy doing blow with Kennison all the time, according to him,
right,
to comic that was respected, not so much known, to interviewing the president in his garage, and then capping his show at 5 seasons, I think, like that. So what were you in, season 4?
I think I was the last season.
Last season?
No, so I think he had 4 seasons, and I think I was the last.
There you go.
Last season, and he's got glow now.
Yeah, he's got glow, and he does all kind. I've watched that grow, but then now to provide opportunities for, and again, that's one little sliver of what you're doing, but I'm sure it meant something to you to get on that, and then again, that TV show was because of him starting his podcast,
exactly,
right? That's pretty crazy to see that happen, and then to see where you can go with that.
Yeah, I mean, and he's also he's been doing it for so long. So I mean, he kind of revolutionized, even just the podcasting world. I mean, everyone talks about WTF because he just changed it, and for where he is actually able to go on his show is used it as a vehicle for exactly what it's supposed to be for, which is people come see him for his stand-up shows.
Yeah.
The same way Jim Norton did it with his shows or radio.
Adam Carolla can sell out a theater and only fly in for the day.
Yeah,
and it's kind of a one-man show kind of thing.
Exactly,
it's pretty wild what it's done. And Joe Rogan, look at that. Joe Rogan influences health trends.
Yeah,
if he says something about a supplement, every dum-dum that just buys, and I mean that in a nice way, everybody just listens to these guys, what they're saying, and that's
massive influence. And he's got, and Mark is like even when he did the show, it was the last season of the show, and I could tell it was kind of talked about that it was going to be. Just because it wasn't so much that he was frustrated. I think he was just stretched so thin as far as being I have to write on my own show. I do my podcast. I tour as well. I'm trying to develop new material for this. I mean, it's just it's inspiring to see that happen because I'm trying to do a very similar thing. You have to create your own platform a little bit for yourself and advocate a little bit for yourself, which I hate doing. But he's also, he's also in a place where he's a veteran, so it doesn't, it doesn't matter. And he can literally talk about whatever.
Oh, and he says no to plenty of stuff too. I mean, I see that quite a bit. As far as your career goes, I talk about it here enough. I do a thing on All Things Comedy with Ian Bagg.
I love Ian.
He's very funny. Yeah,
So
he was just
funny.
here Monday, actually. He
Was
did. The hockey team flew him in for a roast.
Hilarious.
And he's not a roast comic. I wrote 100 jokes. I'm like, hey, dum-dum, I know you didn't prep, so here's some local jokes.
Yeah.
He's like, those are funny. Throws them aside. Just goes up and just murders. Just sets the place on fire.
Yeah.
But, and again, too, without roast jokes, just kind of incorporating crowd work into it. It was pretty crazy.
He's a master.
Yeah, but with him, I see this, and I have a unique view of this because I help on the business side of stuff with him too. The Last Comic Standing is a really cool credit. Mm-hmm. If you ask him about it, he's like, Wanda Sykes isn't very funny, and she told me how to fix my act. That's his, he'll say that. But I see it as if you make a poster and you put, was on Last Comic Standing, the average person's going to go,
yeah.
that is that NBC logo that I see.
Yeah, the value goes in.
Yeah, and you've got that with America's Got Talent.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it's still how many years ago was
That
it?
was 3 years. 3 years ago. Mm-hmm.
I think he did Last Comic Standing 6 years ago or
Yeah.
something, or longer,
Yeah.
or something like that. Do you appreciate what that does for the marketing side of things, or are you kind of, can we give it a break? I do other things.
That's such a good question, dude. That's such a good question. Because it's got a complicated answer. I think.
With me, it's probably something different to everybody, because if you're a comic, probably don't deserve to be on one of those shows,
Sure.
or that you're not nearly as good as somebody else that was on there with you. There's a little bit of, you're the last comic standing comic, but
Right.
but there's
Right.
others that, like Alonzo Bowden won it. Alonzo Bowden's a real comic.
Yeah,
right?
he's great. I mean, Eliza was on it, and she
Yeah.
did she win? She won.
If she didn't win, she was pretty
Right,
publicized.
yeah.
And that,
and Ralphie, who didn't win, also, he was also. I mean, there was a time when Last Comic actually really kind of cultivated careers more.
absolutely. I mean, Eliza even getting, she had a brief show on Comedy Central,
Yeah.
but didn't hurt that she was on Last Comic Standing.
Not at all.
To parlay
I mean,
that into it.
She's exactly. She's parlayed it to how many specials she has now and can sell out, anywhere.
She does theaters, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my answer is that I think, for me, when I go back and watch clips of me on America's Got Talent, which I do every day at noon, because
Yeah.
that's when I schedule. That's when
It's
I
on
cry.
your bio
That's
here.
when I cry.
Yeah.
And I think what I didn't like about it was that my stutter was so pronounced, my material was so just stutter heavy, that I was trying to appreciate at the time, which I still do, it as a platform for someone that, okay, this guy's got a unique situation. We'll let him tell jokes, but also tell his story at the same time,
Yep.
which I think is the best way to be introduced to people. And then, like, I go back and I go, but I think this happens probably with anyone, but it's like, I feel like you would hope that you've grown a lot since, or if you look back at yourself and go, oh man, I was great, then you're an ass.
Hang it up. Yeah. Well, you think about, like, even we haven't been doing this very long, and we do a radio show and all that other stuff. Just to relate it to you, I would be mortified if I listened to the first time I interviewed somebody that I was, like, really into and was excited to chat with, and then you grow with it and you improve and you learn your craft a little better. So there's always that too. But then to have the whole world watching you,
right?
That's a whole different feeling, because I'm like, there's one version of this where it's like, yeah, you used to do this one thing and a few people heard it, but then again too, people can pull it up anytime they want.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Maybe spacing yourself apart from that, it's a little more difficult than the average person's going to deal with.
Yeah, and again, like, it's just funny because, and I'm sure you experience this as well. Like, you might have someone who approaches you or who knows you or from one of your first projects, and they'll be like, "Oh, I love that," and you're like, "Yeah, but I do this now. I do something else now. I do my own thing, And you want to turn them on to what it is you're currently doing or what it is you're more passionate about. But that's so much to expect from someone because just appreciate the fact that they know you from. Like, for a while, if someone were to say to me, like, oh, I know you from, I saw you on Marin and I thought it was great or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I was like, oh, that was really cool that you watched that. I didn't know you did, and that's cool, and that's not a thing that's not the usual thing you hear. So it's just, it's just kind of an interesting, I'm sure you've just experienced the same, Chris, as far as being like, yeah, but I do I work on this now.
Oh,
yeah,
it's interesting to see that too, and especially somebody with your career path, with you specifically, where it's people yell AGT guy at you from across the street. You can't get mad at them. I mean, you can. There are people that wouldn't care
and I do.
for it.
I hate them.
You're a violent guy.
Yeah.
I can notice that, even through the sequined vest. But if you have somebody scream that, it's like, at least they took the time to scream it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's the sentiment. I appreciate the sentiment. Like when I was in Nashville like 2 weeks ago, there was a guy who said, "Oh man, you were the singer. You were that singer on America's Got Talent." And I was like, oh, yeah, close, man, so close. and then I was like, I thank you, but I did comedy, and he was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, you were super funny, and I was like, wait, you just found out I did comedy.
Right. You were picturing me with an acoustic guitar. A second ago.
Yeah. So, either way, like what happens is like sometimes, like I've been able to, I guess, parlay is a good word, but try to use that, or try to use America's Got Talent as a way to like pawn it off to building my own audience.
Yeah.
And I transitioned. I tried to transfer all that to like my YouTube kind of stuff and try to do like a similar thing to like kind of like what people like Marin or whatever did, but like they did it with like radio and podcast, and digital media is so important now, and to have a presence there, and so I did that from like YouTube, and then I have my own show that I do there, and then people will come to my shows because of the stuff that we do on YouTube, but it's like I'm also creating I created an animated show that I do that's still fresh, and it's like I want them to know about that. When people come to the shows, they'll be like, "Oh, we watch Dog Vlog, which is the show I have on YouTube," and they'll be like, "We watched the Dog Vlog," and I'm like, yeah, but this new show I do now, it's
Right.
like I'm always trying to like, which is just a sign of, I think, like just constantly trying to expand, and really just like Marin or like Louis or like Jim Norton or like any of them, really just having a lot of hats that they take on, and a lot of projects, and a lot of rods in the fire.
I don't know anyone that's of notable success that doesn't operate like that.
Right.
It's super difficult.
Right.
Too.
I mean,
And
Howard Stern doesn't. He's the same.
yeah. I mean, think about how weird that is now in 2018, as we're like, oh, Stern, yeah, he's this. He's accepted by all. Especially as politics has gotten more, everybody run to their own side. Think about the people that would think about Howard and go, he's a good guy. He stands up for people, as compared to the heat he took for Fart Man on the VMAs and whatever year. And, he's disgusting. He has porn stars on, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of realize, like, he's not the real creep. The real creep is tapping his toe in an airport bathroom in Idaho and trying to stop everybody else from doing what they want to do.
Right.
Exactly. It's interesting to see that. I think we'll see more of that as we're in controversies every other day, politically or entertainment wise or anything.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, and I think it's also just, it used to be that you could do one thing. Like 20, 30 years ago, it used to be like you just did stand up, and then you just did that.
How nice would that be?
It would be so, dude.
You could go on vacation.
I know. I would have my day. Yeah, I would have hobbies.
Right.
But yeah, it used to just be like, you did that, and then you got on like Carson Daly, not Daly, Carson, Johnny Carson, not
sure.
Carson, or Carson Daly. I'm just hoping for anything.
Late last call, last call with Carson Daly.
You would get on Johnny Carson, and then that was it. I mean, and you would just kind of do the thing. Or if you were a screenwriter, you were a screenwriter. If you were an actor, you did that. If you were a director, you would deal with sexual.
Right. Yeah, if you were a director, you would harass the living shit out of every actress you knew.
So it was just like you just did kind of one thing, and now, I mean, I think it there's a demand for it as far as the platform of the internet and everyone wanting content all the time and wanting it now, and then having short attention spans, and for that way, it's made us grow as artists who also consume it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Tell me about the animated part, the animated work you're doing. Because we need to tell people that. That's what you want them to check out.
Well, it's too late. I already do a new thing now.
Okay. He's created a show as we're sitting here. It's very entertaining. You should see it. Yeah.
So this is a show called Therapy Dog, and it's an animated show that I write. It's bi-weekly, so in 2 weeks I have to write the episode, and then I cast it, and then I voice it with the actor that I have on, and then I will edit the audio, and then I send that away to my animator, who has 2 weeks in time to do that. So that's every other week I do that.
You do that
on
every
top
other
of the
week?
shows that I do, on top of the shows that I do, the other two, the 2 a week show I do, the dog vlog that I on my channel, and basically it's just the main character character Andy in therapy talking to his therapist, who is a dog, and
what kind of dog?
She's a Vizsla.
I was going to say your dog's a Vizsla, right?
Yeah. But basically, he can't hear anything that she says, but she still chimes in with, like her sass, deadpan, sotto, kind of thing. And then he just kind of ends up, whatever the thing he ends up projecting as far as the neuroses that he is that's becoming irrationalized. That's ultimately the thing that ends up coming to bite him in the end. So I'm trying to think of like an example. We did there was like a mugger episode. He was afraid that he was going to get mugged or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was just talking about how there's a lot of muggings in the area, and he didn't want to be mugged. And then he goes out to his car, and then he gets mugged. But then he finds out that the mugger is a mugger who happens to be gay. So he keeps asking for Andy to give him his watch and give him his jacket, but then he keeps getting aroused by the fact that he's taking off his thing. So so it's stupid, but it's just so he's conflicted by that. And then Andy just finally gets fed up with the how much time is being wasted, and he just takes all of his things off and throws it on the ground. And then it shows him back in therapy, saying, "So I stood up to the mugger because you can do whatever you want to take from me, but you can't take away my time." And then the camera pans out a little bit, and the mugger's sitting right next to him, "I'm so proud of you. You sharing your feelings." And it's like, "Thomas, you mugged me. We're not friends." So it's kind of I think that expanding that, I did it just as an exercise to try and strengthen my my episodic writing. And they're small episodes and they're short, but I want to try and build an audience that way as well. And everyone has so many things that they're doing, like Marin or Louie and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They had all those shows going on all the time, and that's kind of what I want to be able to do.
Where can we find the animated series?
It's on my YouTube channel.
Very nice.
Yeah, you can just type in my name or don't.
Does YouTube send cameras to you every week? Does the YouTube team come to you?
Well, they do. Well, they have me on camera, but they don't send me. Yeah,
oh, okay.
they're monitoring.
That's one of the best jokes from the Office series. He's like, "We need to get YouTube down here to film this." Yeah.
Dude, I love that show. Yeah.
So good. I was gonna say, so as far as being a maker, right? So Makers that's an agency, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it used to be.
Or
it's kind of branched. Yeah, it's kind of branched out. I think Disney bought them now. But yeah, and it's kind of been it's been a weird it's been just a weird overall environment as far as what creators are going through now, just because
it is too, and it's strange. So I have a weird connection. We were in Los Angeles a year or two ago, and we were right by the is the Improv off Melrose?
Yep.
Right there, and we were with these friends of ours. We're standing, and we were getting ready to go see a stand-up show, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these YouTube dickheads are moving in next door," and it turns out to be the Paul kids, Logan Paul, and the other kids. I don't know them. That's just what the neighbors were saying, but. Just having said that, that neighborhood, how expensive it would be to live there off of that. And he's the extreme case of what you can make off that. We've done a few things with a girl named Sid Wilder. Do you know her?
Sounds, yeah.
What? She's done stuff with them. As far as that being a career path or that being a mode, I mean, technically you could have Bo Burnham directed
the specials,
the comedy specials, things like that.
Chris Rock,
all these things. Do you want to? So you're working in that space. How would it bother you if you were known as YouTube guy? I
would bother me if I was labeled as just anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because, that works against everything we just talked about, because it's like you're almost limiting yourself if that's what happens. And there is sometimes a stigma with a lot of the content that ends up on, because there is a lot of great content on YouTube. I love Casey Neistat. He's great. He's like a filmmaker who puts he makes each of his videos these short films, and it's amazing. And there's some vlogs things that are great as well, but like even me, I'm very critical of the way that my content comes across, because I don't want it to seem dishonest. I don't want it to seem like that's not who I am, and I don't want it to be cheap, like low hanging fruit kind of things, or like
Drew Lynch's groin shot channel.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I tried that and it flopped.
Yeah.
So did the channel.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mean to step on that.
No, not at all. No, just I say stupid things. Not at all, Chris. And then, but like I've seen a lot of the content that a lot of YouTubers put out there, and like I want to just try to be one of the first comedians or stand-up comedians who basically is like, oh, he's a stand-up comedian who happens to have a presence on YouTube, and try to merge those two.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Because that was always the goal, and that was why I started the channel in the first place, was to, much like with Therapy Dog, trying to strengthen my script writing and scripted on the scripted side of things. With the blog, I wanted to just like take like bullet points like Bill Burr does on his podcast, and just like get better at just joke writing, just get better at just being like, oh, here's a thing, let me talk about that, and and then just kind of document whatever. So
working it out and getting paid to be creative, man. That's the thing. So ultimately, where does in 5 years you've hit all your goals? Where does that put you? Are you in movies? Are you doing stand up full time? Kind of cutting some other things out? What are you doing?
Maybe just like another studio in this building, like a bigger.
Do you want to start a radio show together?
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, if people like say that, if people say like they checked out like Therapy Dog and they're not checking out our radio show, then I will be devastated.
Okay, I understand.
But yeah, I would love that.
Get a studio in this sterile building that feels like you're in a weird doctor's office.
I wanted to be in the Taco Bell.
Yes, it's right next door. It's right there.
Let's get a studio in this studio. That's what I want. I want a podcast in a podcast. But 5 years, I don't know, man. I would love to be like acting is still on the table as far as what I want. It's what I've always wanted to do. It's just I had to deviate a little bit because of the sports injury, and getting mismanaged as far as people not wanting to work with me because of that, which was why I got pushed into stand up to begin with. But
tell me about the sports injury.
So I didn't stutter from birth. I stuttered because I went to sleep on a concussion because of a softball injury. So I had a grounder hit me in the throat, and I fell back and hit my head, and that was the whole to do, and I went to sleep on the concussion. And at the time I was in LA, and I was I was on like Disney shows and trying to make it happen. And then my agency and manager, like, they dropped me because they were like, we don't know how to sell you. And that was when I was like, all right, I'm going to try.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 20.
That would be crushing.
It was, man.
Because you didn't understand the business side of that either. And even now, like, you're proving it was a poor choice.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, there's still... Hey, bloodsuckers, there's still plenty to pull out of this.
Yeah. And it took me a while to, kind of spin it into something that, really made sense to me. But for me at the time, like, stand-up was there as far as just being an outlet for me to kind of work through a thing, but also make fun of myself in the process. Because when you do go through losing the way that you who talked your whole life, it is humbling, and it is a thing that... it like humanizes you in a way that's like, oh man, I maybe I didn't have so much going on as I thought, or maybe I wasn't as hot shit as I thought I was, or whatever. So
Disney, man, getting work on Disney and all those things at a young age too. I always say that anytime, whether it's an athlete or an entertainer or something, it's like, holy cow, that's like Justin Bieber did something insane, or he did something crazy, or you have other people do something wild. Just remember what you were doing, like, especially people that were in college, or if you grew up in a small town and like people kicking the shit out of each other or something. Like, think about how you were acting at that age. Like, that's that had to be a really weird thing. Are you other than the age part, like, was that a seminal moment? Did that change how you view things, how you go about people? Did you treat people differently?
It's
because of that.
I was very but prior to my injury, I wouldn't say I was a mean person at all. I was still a nice person, but I think I just had a little bit of just an ego as far as being like I was perfectionist, and I still battle and trying not to be, but I was just kind of afraid to show a little bit of who I was to people because I didn't so much empathize with their problems or whatever, and because I felt like I didn't have any. And now having this issue, it's really caused me to go back and reevaluate the way that I should treat myself and other people to just be vulnerable or just be
accepting of other people's problems. Or not just like they're not doing that because they're a horrible person. It's like maybe there's 5 things that led to X action. And
it's changed me quite a bit in the way that I look at things, as far as I'm still an optimist, but only I would say it's like when you win an election but barely. It's like 51-49, you know.
You're not as good as you thought you were. Or something. Yeah.
You know, like when I feel like I'm very pessimistic and I can see something being negative or see being negative towards myself, or critical. But I feel like in order to create things or in order to get over the hump of whatever your mental, block might be, you have to be somewhat optimistic, or you have to believe somehow. And like I said, I hate advocating for myself, but like I would love to get to a place in 5 years. I would love to get to a place where I can delete all my social media.
That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It would.
You think about that. You have Zuckerberg sitting in front of a congressional hearing, just owning these old bastards that don't know anything.
Yeah.
We keep joking about it on the radio show. We're like, can you get your interns up there to actually ask him like a pressing question, because you guys are swimming.
Yeah.
You're not getting it. But think about this: if you're a certain age, or just say you live in Montana in a cabin, your food is plentiful, you enjoy where you're at. Like we create so many issues with ourselves, and just because you brought up social media, I mean, it's a great tool to promote. If I didn't do radio or a podcast or comedy events or whatever, I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't need to announce that you got a new car. You don't need to announce that you cleaned your apartment.
Yeah.
Like, it's those things where it's like,
dude,
what?
You're absolutely. I mean, I can't. I'm just telling you.
That's a great answer, by the way, because that means something now, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, it would be. I would like to do that because I only have those platforms because I have to. They're just as a business. Like, but I don't. Anytime I look at my Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you end up measuring it and comparing it, and that's why they say like I forget the exact saying, but it's something like comparison is the measure for defeat, or like I don't know what it is. I'm off, but I know
I feel you.
It's basically, if you're comparing yourself all the time, you're never going to be happy, and that's literally what social media has trained us to do. Is to be like, well, what's the viewership on that? Well, what are the likes? Well, what's the enhancement? What's the engagement? What is all of those things? And to me, it just doesn't, like, I don't want to have to always document everything, and like for people like who are artists, like even Ed Sheeran, he doesn't even have a phone. He's cut it all out completely because he's also at that place where he can do whatever he wants to still do.
Send me a written letter.
Yeah.
Notarized if it needs to be. Like that is what I wonder too, as we talk about this. I wonder if the golden age of entertainment in the modern era is Seinfeld going to do stand-up shows, writing for 3 days a week, 4 days a week, or whatever, or I don't know, what did they probably filmed 4 days a week, right?
Yeah,
on Seinfeld.
it was, yeah.
And then that, yes, he's in magazines. Yes, he'll pepper in a late night show appearance. But other than that, you can kind of just do you, right?
Yeah.
And then you can control it a little bit more. You don't get the interaction, but then it's actually more special when Jerry Seinfeld comes to town to do a show, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like those things where it's like, you can just kind of see when on their website they'll be at a place, whatever, and then that's it. I mean, it's just there's people who are like who are consuming what it is that we're doing, and I think when you have to be open to being criticized, but it's so easy I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, it's so easy for a thing to be blown out of proportion and for me to just spiral as someone saying a thing and just me being like, taking it personally or taking it, and
I
I
can
try
see
not
that
to.
happening. Yeah,
I try. I really, you have to get so good. That was another thing that America's Got Talent taught me is that when everyone's watching you, but that means everyone, and that means people who are not going to like you, and they're not going to be so nice about the way that they say that they don't like you. And I don't disagree. People are like, I hate you. I'm like, I hate me. What do you? Let's be friends over this,
right?
Huh?
Yeah, let's bond over hate, mutual hate for yourself, and that makes so much sense too. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, that did provide you with that initial. Here's a bunch of fucking people who know who you are, and then now for the next 10 years, you're going to be trimming the fat on that, shedding maybe the persona or thoughts that people have that, and just kind of getting down to people that actually appreciate you. But that's good. I think ultimately it was probably a good thing. Though.
Yeah. And the answer definitely boils down to it being incredibly helpful and a detriment to what I'm able to do now. But it is very much also that the industry, maybe the first time they see you, in that the first way they see you, that's how they'll remember you until whenever else. Like I was lucky last year because I got to do a late night on Conan, which I was excited about because in the set I talked a little bit about my voice, but then transitioned to other material because I just don't want, like anyone who sees my live shows now know that it's not a thing I very much talk about. I just address it in the beginning and then I talk about other things because I want it to be legitimately considered as someone who can talk about whatever, and then introduce a lot of new material, like a lot of these veterans where they're doing a different hour, a new hour a year or whatever. Like when people come and see me, twice at two different locations within a month or whatever, I want them to be able to see another, even if it's the same show except for 3 minutes or whatever that I've chiseled or worked on or whatever. That's important to me because then that shows that you're still creating that. And you're not becoming complacent with the set that you've done for however long, which is why a lot of these veterans who have done it for 25 years or whatever, back then that was what you did. You worked on one act, which is not a word I use even. I wouldn't call it my act. I would just,
to bring it back on our podcast, Ian told a story about, because again, he's a guy who just kind of shoots from the hip. He's a lot of crowd work. He was in one side of a club, and George Carlin was on the other side of the club. It was somewhere in New York, literally like it was a play, reciting his act. Yeah. And to Ian, he was like, that is so weird. But that's what it was. Yeah. And he was a master at it, obviously. Yeah. But
everyone in comedy who's done it for over 20 years has a saying, which is everybody hasn't heard it, is what it is, which means you can do the same jokes every night to an audience, and it'll be a new audience. And that's fine, but it's just changed. It's changed in a way that like people want to see what's different, and like I said, with the way we consume content is so much quicker. And
absolutely,
so, you can
what we'll get you out of here in just a minute. Again, people go see Drew at Helium all weekend long. I'm thinking Angela Smith is opening for you. She's a friend of the show, so be sure to check her out as well. As far as LA, what part of LA do you live in, and do you have a home club?
I actually like the Comedy Magic Club out there. That's in Hermosa.
Hermosa Beach, yeah.
Ian goes there a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna do a thing there, but
that's awesome. When is it?
We're not. If dealing with his ass is a thing, but hoping for later this summer. To him, it's like, whatever, another day. I'm like, I'm going to be in LA. I'm going to go hang out and all this stuff. Yeah. August at the latest, I'm thinking. So we'll see about that.
Let me know, because I would love to see, if you guys do a show, I'd love to go see it. Or whatever.
Thanks, man. It'd be a lot of fun. But no, that with the Gary Shandling documentary out too, there's a big spotlight on it, and you hear Seinfeld talking about being down there all the time. It's a pretty legendary place in itself.
It is. I like that one. I like that one just because they treat you so well there. I perform at the Improv, and then I perform at the Ice House quite a bit. Those are kind of like there's Laugh Factory and Improv, Laugh Factory and Comedy Store as well. But my home clubs are the ones that I'm doing on the road, like I'm gone all the time, and like it's another stigma I try to fight against. I don't want to be known as like, oh, he just does the road or whatever. I like to be in LA to do projects that I want to work on. But when you're starting out, or when you're early on, or you're in your younger years of whatever it is you want to do, you have to say yes to everything, and you have to be doing both. So it's like, it's like when you have a day job but you have a passion, you still have to keep your day job while working just as hard on your passion. That's the way I feel about being home in LA and also being on the road is like for clubs.
So true. And you'll hear management say that. Had a conversation with a super talented business manager, of a guy in LA recently, and he was like, he'll tell people, these people will call him, and he does Adam Carolla's business, right?
Yeah.
And that's a self-made thing. And these people, hey, should I move to LA? Should I do this? He's like, no, you shouldn't. He's like, you want a model? Bob and Tom in Indianapolis should be your model. Take over your region, and then if it comes calling, do it. But to the same point with you, with being based there, working on projects, with the relevant career that you've had, you have a reason to be there, right? But hitting the road all the time is super important. But I was going to get to the point, too. You don't do much at Comedy Store, you said, but Mitzi Shore just passed away.
Yeah.
A long time coming. I think she'd been in bad health for a while, too. And it's weird, too, because I know not everybody's always down with people who pass away or whatever, but it does seem to be a consensus that she kind of created just the place of places to get people out there. Yeah. Any opinions on what she's done or what she did for comedy at the Comedy Store?
She just created a home that for comedians that could showcase, like it was just it's comedy all night, and they still stick by that. Mm-hmm. And what was great about Mitzi and I don't know her did not know her personally, but her model for comedy was she's going to stick to her guns on the way that she felt about
Told Gary Shanley's he's a writer. Stop doing stand-up.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and which is also and she can be right. Anybody can be right, and they can be wrong about a thing.
Very true.
That's dealing with positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Because if someone tells me I can't do a thing, I'm that much more inclined.
You're going to go do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she either knew, she knew what she was doing, and she created we're talking about revolutionaries. She was that for LA because it was such a home for people like Robin Williams and Richard Pryor. I mean, so many people came out of that place.
Insane.
Because so it was like the dream team of like Arnold Schwarzenegger worked out in Venice or whatever.
It'll be
it's kind of
remembered forever. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a great way to put it. So Drew, thank you so much for coming here today, man. As you're talking about getting your dues in, I don't appreciate how you keep eyeballing me in the Taco Bell. Like you're literally working through your dues right now, Drew. I mean, you hit it very well on the audio, but I mean, if you're gonna big time us here, at least get a picture on the way out, man. No, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I will absolutely have to hit you up whenever we head out there.
Please,
that'll be a good time. But go see Drew this weekend, Helium Comedy Club. You guys know where it's at, in the basement of the mall in Brentwood, in the Galleria. It's a great place to see a show. Say hey to David if you're out there too. Always a good dude, and we love Helium. So thanks again, man. Really appreciate you stopping by.
Chris. Thank you, buddy.
We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live.
Hillside Animal Hospital at 5325 Manchester, near the Hill, the Grove, and even Dogtown, is the official veterinarian office for St. Louis Live. Amazing care for your family pets, and you can hear Dr. Ed on St. Louis Live every week telling stories and giving animal advice to listeners. For more information, visit hillsideanimalhospital.net.